Yes, I'm live. Sorry about that, folks. It took a little while to come online. Yes, hi, and welcome again to Coffee with Craig. And we talk about topical things here, particularly with a spiritual slant and a mediumistic slant and a prediction slant. And today I want to talk about, will an asteroid ever destroy the world? We've just recently had a comet, I think it's called Comet 2023 BU. Almost hit the Earth. It came 2,200 miles close to the Earth. I mean, that's a distance we could fly with an aeroplane, isn't it? This class is classed as a close shave. So what do other psychics from the past say about this possibility of us ever having another serious problem with this? And what do I have to say? And I'm going to give you some thoughts about this topic. Well, hi again, folks, and thanks for all of you just joining me now, because I know that many of you are joining me live for this, and I've seen your comments coming in here I've got on the side of my screen here. But I'm just going to talk a bit first about some of these thoughts about possibilities of asteroids and things like that hitting the Earth in the future, because I know we just recently had this close encounter, as it were, with Comet 2023 BU. And like I said, it came very, very close to the Earth. And of course, we've had it all happen in the past before. But I did predict it, that there'd be a comet, an unexpected comet this year. In fact, Jane and I were talking about this before there was anything in the press or anything mentioned of noticing anything about a comet. And we both said, actually, that a comet would pass between the orbit of the Earth and the Moon. Look back to my videos, a few of them actually, particularly the ones where Jane and I were doing chats from the studio there. And we said this would happen, and this would be an unexpected one that wasn't seen by NASA. So I don't know when this one was seen, actually. I'm not 100% sure. So, you know, obviously these things, and we mentioned something else about some other predictions that were in the Naadi about a much bigger one that would come in the future. Now, the one that just went by, as people have been describing, is about the size of an elephant or the size of a bus. So it is, even if it had hit the Earth, it would have caused some problems, but it would not have been destructive. It wouldn't have been Armageddon or anything like that. But it has happened, of course, before. And we're going to address that. And sorry to those of you who've been asking, where are you, Craig? Because I've been offline a little bit because I've been away filming. I can't tell you what I've been filming because I've been under a confidentiality agreement on that. But I will be able to talk about that a little bit later in the year when all these things go live, all these things happen on TV. Anyway, we had it, of course, in the past, didn't we, with an asteroid? 66 million years ago. There was an asteroid much bigger than the one that we've just seen, which was 6 miles across. And that wiped out the dinosaurs, or certainly the reign of the dinosaurs that had been running for 180 million years beforehand. It was all suddenly abruptly ended. Big numbers, that, you know, so quite a long time since we've had an extinction event with an asteroid. But it happened once. It could happen again. We only need to look at the moon through a telescope, and it's peppered with hits from asteroids from far back in its past. But you know, it does happen. We live in a cosmic environment. So I have said about this. I said I thought something would hit Russia, actually. So the maybe there in my predictions earlier. So this might be another one. Maybe there's another one that could hit something to follow this one. Perhaps there's a second one to come. Not huge, not dangerous, not life-threatening, not something you should be going into bunkers over. But there was one that hit Siberia a long time ago. What was it? It was Tunguska, wasn't it? Tunguska event, I think it was called. And I remember that was back in something like 1908 or something, way back. And that gave a huge 12 megaton explosion when it hit, and wiped out huge forests in Siberia area. I think it was Siberia, so around that, all that big area in Russia full of wasteland. So it was enormous, and it happened just in 1908. So that's not long ago. My granddad was alive then. So the good news from NASA apparently is that there's no asteroids or comets that they're aware of that could cause big enough explosions to ever hit the Earth and cause world-changing events. The best we can tell, that they've said that there's some potential worry or more worrying ones that's about several hundred years ahead. But then this one that we just seen today came out of the blue, didn't it? They come out of the blue. These asteroids are hard to see. You can see a comet because it lights up and it's enormous. But the asteroids are pretty much hidden. We think we know what's going on out there, but there's a big space. There is another asteroid out there. I think it's called Bennu, Bennu. And that was an asteroid about the third of a mile across that they think has a possible trajectory towards the Earth for the future. The thoughts from NASA, I've got a few notes in front of me, I'll say this bit. The thoughts from NASA are that this will hit on the or possible impact, I say, on September the 24th, 2182. I add, so it's not around the corner, and that would be a Tuesday. But again, it's not 100% by any means likely. It's a 1 in 2,700 chance of it hitting the Earth. Now that would be pretty big. That's a pretty big possibility of an asteroid hitting, but and it's big enough to cause disruption, serious problems if it does hit. Now, so what are some of the greats of the past said about these possibilities? I mean, there was a guy called Gordon Michael Scallion. Scallion, that was his name. He was a futurist, talking back in the 1980s, I remember, and he claimed that there would be a big spiritual awakening after the hit by an asteroid, I think it was, and this was this would happen at a time of a big polar shift. Now, those of you that know their stuff about all this psychic prediction stuff will know that there's a very famous psychic called Edgar Cayce, or Cayce, depends how you pronounce it. He predicted a polar shift coming in the future, between 16 and 20 degrees shift. Now, the Earth wobbles on its axis, so this polar shift, I presume from Cayce was thinking in terms of a shift of the actual axle of the Earth. But we also do get every 11,000 years, I believe, 11 million years rather, or was it whatever it was, we get a shift of the Earth's core moving around, because it's liquid inside, liquid iron or whatever it is in the middle of the Earth. That magma moves, and every now and again the magnetic pole flips, and when that happens, things could happen to the Earth, and it happens regularly, and we're actually kind of due for that now as well. So this could be one of the things. When Edgar Cayce said that when this happened, Mount Etna would explode, Mount Pelée in Martinique would erupt together. So Etna and Pelée, I've got the notes here, Pelée would interact together, and there would be approximately 90 days to evacuate the west coast of America before the massive floods claimed the coastlines. So he's saying the polar shift. Could that polar shift ever one day be caused? Sudden polar shift would be unlikely, even with the magnetic core of the Earth changed. Could it be caused by an asteroid impact? Was that part of what Edgar Cayce was seeing? Now, also interestingly, Baba Vanga. Now, you remember her? She was she went blind at 12 years old, I think it was. She was Bulgarian, and she became a very famous seer who predicted all sorts of things that did come true. She's the Eastern European Nostradamus in many respects. And she said that God gave her a blindness so that she could see in a different way, that she could see the future. And she made predictions up until 5079. So she wasn't seeing the end of the world or anything like that as far ahead as 5079, way out of our lifetimes. And she didn't necessarily say that would be the end of things. But she revealed lots of things also about comets and asteroids and things like that. So she talked about that there was a comet called Oumuamua. Now, I'm not quite sure about this. You'll have to tell me in the comments about this, guys, because if I've got this wrong, but I thought this was one of the first detected interstellar objects. But basically, anyway, she said whatever, whether that was known about in her time or not, or whether she was sort of picking up on something that was already seen. But she said that she predicted that there would be a huge asteroid pass the Earth. And this would be the same time that aliens would make contact with us, that there would first and foremost be an asteroid followed by a communication from aliens. So I'm only putting it out there. It's interesting because she was obviously a well-known and famous seer. And there was also, my interests have often, as you know, been with the Naadi oracles in India. And I'm not necessarily sure I run with this one because I do not know this particular Naadi's details. I don't know the actual details of what was said by this, but there's a German researcher called Thomas Ritter, and he hit the headlines in Germany some while back by saying that he saw in the Naadis there, he had a prediction in the Ganesha Babu Sharshi, I think it's called, Shastri. Yeah, so it's the Ganesha Babu Shastri. Shastri means chapters, doesn't it? So Ganesha Babu, that there was a prediction in the Naadis there that said that there would be a disaster in 2046, in which an asteroid, a large asteroid in this case, would enter the solar system, and it would become between the Earth and the Moon. And its path, and it would just miss the Earth. It wouldn't hit the Earth, but it would cause tremendous sort of gravitational forces. I'm just looking at my notes now. I'm going to pull them up a bit so I'm not looking down so much. But he said that this Naadi apparently predicted that many earthquakes, massive floodings of the Earth. California would be affected by a huge earthquake at the time, and also Japan and China would be affected by strong earthquakes, and large parts of countries would be covered by ocean water. And also earthquakes would affect Europe, mostly Germany, England, and the Mediterranean area. And over the coast of the northern Baltic Sea, there's a huge flood and a huge volcano eruptions around the world because of this close pass of this cataclysmic pass by of an asteroid in 2046. Okay, now problem is I don't necessarily feel the same way with this. I do think we will get something, because I kind of feel that we will, I think, in the future get an asteroid event of some sort. Whether it's 2046 or not, I don't know. The Naadi is often hard to predict, and I do kind of very much hold by the Naadi, because pretty much everything it says in personal life does tend to come true, and it tends to happen for the better if you follow the remedies that you do in the Naadi. So this is from a personal sense this time. I've done this in my life. Those of you who've read my books, particularly Messages from the Universe book, and also my book Mystic Journey to India, where I actually went to India and did the remedies. Once you start doing the remedies, you start to push the karma in the right direction. Now, anything that's said in the Naadi doesn't mean it has to happen. There are chapters in the Naadi about world events. But some of those world events are changeable, because depending on what we do and depending on our attitude in life, even the things such as an asteroid coming to close to the Earth can be redirected by our karma. You know, we have the power, I believe, to change the destiny not only of ourselves, but we also have the power to change the destiny of the world through good thoughts, good actions, humanitarian attitudes. Now, we haven't got much of that in the world at the moment, but my understanding and my feeling is that these things will change eventually, that we will have a better world. We will have a world where good values come eventually, and that will, I think, ultimately safeguard the world. Maybe because there's a threat, maybe something that will come from some other part of the cosmos that would come by and scare the living daylights out of humanity and make us rethink. Or better still, I feel, and I think this is the way it will happen, I think there will be an awakening. That awakening will happen person by person, but there will be some very, very great spiritual beings that will be on this earth, not necessarily from outer space, but definitely high-level spiritual, miraculous beings will walk amongst us. As mankind really discovers our capabilities, we don't realize what incredible powers we have. You know, people like me and many others have the sort of little bit of it, you know, with our psychic powers, with our insights into the future and things. But, you know, the capabilities, the possibilities of these Siddhi powers that we have are extraordinary and can actually make major changes to the world. So the people like us, like Baba Vanga and any others, they're only part of the picture. Like I say so often, it's through a mirror darkly. But it's interesting. I thought I'd put it out there just to have a chat with you, and I'll take some questions from you now. And have you read anything else about this? Have you any other thoughts? I mean, I didn't see anything, so for example, from Nostradamus that seemed to suggest anything about asteroids in the future. But that asteroid belt, you know, it's a pretty wide belt. What was it? Was it an exploded planet from years and years and centuries, billions of years ago, that's still floating its debris around? You know, there's stories out there that there used to be an extra planet to the universe, to the solar system, that exploded, left the asteroid belt, and maybe accounted for many of the things of early history of human myths. So let's have a look at some of your questions now, guys. So you're welcome to put your questions up. Nice to see you all. I'm sorry I haven't said hello to you all yet. I'm going to spin down to the bottom of the list now. Just get a few hellos. Hello, guys. Yeah. Just people here actually. Be careful of these spammers. I noticed. I think we got a spammer on here already. What a shame. You know, to mess. Never answer people who say please private message me, you know, because they are people just me and Jane never but there's false profiles out there too. Jane and I never ever ask people by private message to have readings. You know, it's a job to get a reading with us. We don't pitch for it and under fake profiles. Well, it's quite scary. These are quite scary, but like I said, you know, the predictions, for example, for the Naadi, I believe are a long way ahead. I don't know. 2046. Well, that's what was said in that apparently in that Naadi, but I'm not putting that as a Naadi that I've accessed personally, so I don't know the full details of it. But you know, obviously we got to think sensibly at this. So any questions you got, guys, and I can take them now on this topic if we can. prefer it on this topic if we can, but I don't mind some other stuff sometimes. Any other thoughts about these topics? So that's kind of interesting. So are aliens coming, right? Because there was Baba Vanga said about the possibility of aliens coming at a time of a sign of an asteroid. I don't. First and foremost, there must be other life in the universe. I think it is absolutely wild to think that there's no life elsewhere, that there's no intelligent life out there in the universe. We're already thinking there might be possibilities of being able to find life on some of the planets, the moons of some of the planets of our solar system. Then we might even find life on Mars, signs of life having been on Mars. When I see Sharavana, he's off, I follow Sharavana quite a lot in my book, Be Happy. I've talked about this. And he said that we originated on Mars and came to Earth. Could this be a possibility? Could we actually be a mix of Martian and Earth genetics, and that mankind was perhaps given an evolutionary boot by perhaps people that escaped the ending of life on Mars, intelligent life on Mars. I mean, it had water for a long time. Who knows? We don't know the answers to these things, but they raise some fascinating questions. And I think it's inevitable that there will be life elsewhere. Big question, of course, is the huge distances. Is it possible for us to travel in a craft of any sort between Earth and the nearest stars? I mean, we're talking about light years away, thousands of light years away. We know we can't travel the speed of light. But what about thought? What about thought? What speed? Assuming we accept that telepathy exists. Now, the scientists will say, no, load of nonsense. But anybody that's sat with a psychic, anybody that's sat with a medium, anybody in your personal life, many of you here may have experienced telepathy. You may, perhaps between you and a loved one. If telepathy can transmit between people, what speed does that go? Is it instantaneous? Does it go outside of space and time? Is our consciousness perhaps in the quantum world? I mean, they did some experiments on one of the early 60s space missions. I'm not sure which one it was. I've forgotten his name, but he was very interested in noetic sciences and things. Oh, Edgar Mitchell, I think it was, did some experiments with Zener cards and things from one of the space. Not accepted by NASA. This was just one that he did with people back on Earth. And they got some pretty interesting results. But supposing we could prove telepathy can exist, does that mean that perhaps the way that we can travel between the stars has to be inwardly? Just like the people that wrote the Naadis could look into the future of mankind. In those Naadis also, it talks about life on other planets. So I think there is a lot to this, and I certainly believe that there is life on other planets. Whether we can connect them through deep insights, I don't know. We need proof. I've seen bonkers people talk about life on other planets, communications from Martians with squeaky voices and all sorts of silly stuff. We've got to verify it somehow, So, there's more questions and answers here, I'm afraid, but these are some of my thoughts. And whether they're coming to Earth, I don't know. I don't believe the idea that they're already here, and that the Queen is a lizard and all that, was a lizard and all that type of thing. But I do also, when you look into these Naadi oracles, they talk about the Naga, and these are the snake people. And what are these Naga? What? And this is these snake reptilian beings that were supposed to be, according to the Indian traditions, they were not trying to take the world over in an H.G. Wells sort of type of thing. They were beings from another lokar, which is like another dimension. So that's how we would have to travel interdimensionally, wouldn't we? from another lokar that communicated with mankind, shared their knowledge with us, and were, you know, beneficial to mankind. But then we misused the knowledge that they gave us, and we turned against them, and there was a war between the two realities, as it were. Mankind won, but we took their power, but with it we destroyed it ourselves. It's a long story. I'll have to do a special thing on this sometime. But I find, you know, I find hints of those myths sometimes when I've seen people's Naadis being consulted. You know, where's this coming from? What, you know, and how much more is there in there? How much more is hinted at in these ancient texts? Anyway, so those of you that are interested, actually, I know this isn't a sale. I'm just carry on from where I've been talking. I have teamed up with a group of people in India, and you can actually get your own personal Naadi reading from my website at psychics.co.uk. And I'm not doing this just as a sale. It just happens to be part of the talk, I hope. But and if you do, obviously, if you go to my website and you do get one of those Naadi readings, fill it in from the form on the website, and they will ask you, you know, where did you hear about this? Say that you heard about it from Craig. And also, if you get anything about the Naga in there, please do tell me. Please do come back to my website and email me. I know a lot of you come back after you've had your readings and say, oh, Craig, amazing things happened. But I want to pick up on those really strange stuff. You know, did you get anything from that? Did you get anything about the lokars or things like that? Okay. I'll have a look. Sorry, I've been chatting on. You said the question and I've just gone off, haven't I? Let's have a look. See what's. Let's click a few. Yeah, I think so. I think cats are aliens, aren't they? They definitely are. They're in control. They're in control. We think they look down on us, don't they? Yeah. Do you like it? Good. I'm glad you're finding it interesting. Let's just hook this question up. Sometimes I used to think some UFO sightings was us from the future coming back to see history and learn from our mistakes. But there has to be something out there. And actually, I think that's really an interesting concept, Claire, actually, which is something I was thinking about doing a whole talk about sometimes. Because, you know, could we send messages back to ourselves in the past to help us get to this point? Now, if we can see the future, why can't I, and maybe even influence the future? Like I've said, we can influence the future by our remedies and things we do. For example, if we go through the Naadis, we might get a mantra, for example. We can use that mantra and it might change our path ahead, make it better. But what if we project that energy into the past? Could we even give ourselves signposts and messages from the past? And I often wondered, when these messages came up from the Naadis, I thought, could that not even possibly be me giving a message to myself? And those of you that have been doing this, giving your messages from the future? Who knows? You know, it would mean if that was the case, the future had already happened. According to some theories of the particle physics and things, there's possible thoughts that future has happened. Everything happens all at once in the quantum world. So who knows? But the whole wild stuff. But I think we will explore that maybe in another one. Can we influence our past? I might pick you up on that one actually, Claire, and do another one soon. I'd like to try to get these shows out a little bit more often. But I get so tied up with you know, other things. Doing the readings still, of course, takes a lot of time for me. I cleared my desk for doing this TV stuff, so I can make a few more of these for Bobby. Well, this is what I was saying, Adrian, here. How do we know we ain't the aliens? Because I sent Sharavana, who in my book Be Happy, he mentions to me in one talk he gave here that he said that we came from Mars. And when you see people who have the miraculous powers, you know, you have to question, are these normal human beings? You know, when you, for example, Sati Sai Baba and Sai Baba and people, and the reverse Sai Baba and others like this, and other miraculous people, the yogis of the Himalayas and things, are they quite as human as we think? Or what is the capabilities of us as well? Are we something, if we have been if ancient aliens did visit Earth, did they leave us with some sort of spiritual legacy that we haven't discovered yet? Like our powers, perhaps we've got to get to a certain point, and we know now we can do mediumship. We know about psychic things. I mean, most of you out there who are watching this, not particularly you guys live, know about these type of things. You know them to be real, whatever the scientists say. Codswallop. We experience, we can't throw away what we know to be true because we see it happening in our lives. But what other powers do we have? What other powers do we have? Powers of manifestation. Could we, like the claims that the ancient pyramids, for example, were built by levitation? And when I went to India, the common people there from the villagers would say, how the hell did they get that huge stone on top of that temple? It's huge. And levitation, sir. They do it by levitation. They do it by mantra. Really? Yes, sir. Mantra. Just take common knowledge, and that's been going. They've been passing that knowledge on right the way down through their history, which makes it such a fascinating place, India, because it's still alive. It's the old knowledge is still there. When you connect spirits, are they aware of aliens and the future? No. It doesn't seem to be, because that's an interesting question. In my work, you see, my brain is full of my thoughts as well as the thoughts of spirit world. And I think a lot of mediums go wrong when, instead of connecting to spirit, they start to connect to their own fantasy. And everybody loves that because all the fantasy stuff is far more exciting. But I have to, with what I do, I always feel I can only give stuff that has proof and evidence. So although intuitively I might feel that somehow we're connected with other beings elsewhere, I can't prove that. And I think when we talk about things like spirit guides, Jules, and things like that, they come in the form of a being of light. Now, if an alien came to me, they wouldn't come as some green man spouting strange, squeaky voices. That'd be my own madness, that would be. But they come as a being of light, wouldn't they? Because we are all beings of light. And the spirit guides often say to us that when they manifest to us, they manifest in a form that we can understand. So they are manifest in a human form. So if an alien being in a spirit-like energy was to manifest to me, they wouldn't come in some form that I couldn't understand or that'd be scary. They'd come in a form that was easy for me to accept. So that's why we get spirit guides that take forms that we know they're not like normal human beings. So they don't come as the bank manager. They kind of come in a form that is a bit odd or different. Like they might take the form of American Indian, for example. And I remember Silver Birch, who was one of the most famous American Indian guides, said in one of his sessions that I'm a spirit, but I took the form of an American Indian, and he took the kind of the astral shell of an American Indian. So he wasn't himself Silver Birch, the American Indian. He was using the astral form. So I think when we die, we leave an astral shell behind us that spirit can manifest into if they need to. Now, some people argue, that means that's the case, then, people, evil spirits could pretend to be your relatives. There's another whole story which I would dismiss. But perhaps we make a connection. Anyway, I'm going perhaps often too much in the mechanics of it. Perhaps the spirit guides are alien beings. Who knows? We don't know. And like you say, the Egyptians were so advanced at their time. That's another thing, I mean, there's so much of that we could look into. We'll look into these things. I'll do some more on this because I think this is all interesting topics. But I'm going to have to say goodbye. Right. I think I don't want to make these too long because they go on too far for people otherwise. But I hope there's some interesting stuff there. And keep the conversation going, please. Have a look in the description below when you've come off when I've gone offline. And let's discuss some of these topics. Let's talk about, do aliens exist? Will the world be moved by an asteroid? Is there other things out there you know about? I don't see anything that Nostradamus said about this. Have other psychics said anything? I made my prediction, for example. Jane and I made our prediction about there being an asteroid between the Earth and the Moon, and then suddenly I notice other psychics kind of pick up on it after we've said it. And the problem is, some of the psychics out there copy other people's sites. I've seen people copy my predictions word for word and put it up as their own, actually word for word. And I look at that and think, what are you doing? That's crazy. Because we might be spreading misinformation of that. Supposing I got something wrong, that's misinformation. So it's very important, I think, that we have to be kind of as, how can I say, even-minded about these things. Anyway, I'm going to say goodbye for you now, guys. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you all soon. And don't forget, if you're interested in the Naadis, go and have a look at those on my website. We do psychic readings on there as well, but also Naadi readings and all sorts of interesting things now. Okay, see you soon. And mention my name when you do it. And subscribe. If you're new here, subscribe. Okay, that's it. Gotta go. Bye for now. So would you like to know more? Come and see my website at psychics.co.uk, where you can buy my books. You can also read lots of free articles, and you can join our Patreon community if you like there. You can also book readings with myself and Jane. I do readings by Zoom and by email. Jane does them one-to-one at home. So have a look on the website, you'll find all that. And you'll also find our team of readers who do international work. So you can book a psychic, a medium, an astrologer there, and they're available now for phone readings 24/7. So visit our website, psychics.co.uk. You'll find a link in the description below.